Hi, if you're new, welcome once again to my channel, Inspiring Farming. And in this video, I'll be sharing with you how to manage coccidiosis and the chronic respiratory diseases in poultry farming. Now, recently I published a video how I raised 3 kilograms of chickens on this batch of my Cobros series, which I always share my information with you. So, that said, I got a lot of questions on the comment section asking how do you manage coccidiosis, how do you manage chronic respiratory diseases, and all the related problems in raising chickens. That's why I decided to create this video. Oh, please pay close attention. First, I'd like you to understand that all these diseases and problems are caused by pathogens, most often bacteria, fungi, viruses, and sometimes protozoas like coccidia in the case of coccidiosis. Now, having that in mind, I'd like you to understand that there are a series of factors that affect how much all these pathogens will affect the birds or the chickens that we raise. So those factors, we are going to be looking at them in this video, from sanitation to the environment to feeding to the use of probiotics and organic acids and treatment with antibiotics if need be. But usually I always advise that antibiotics should be used as a last resort based on a vet's recommendation and at appropriate dosages. It is, however, equally not advisable to give chickens antibiotic treatments less than a week before harvest. Having said that, let's begin with our first control measure, which is proper sanitation and biosecurity. This will ensure that you don't carry any pathogen that has caused you a problem in one batch to the next batch, or you don't bring in a pathogen from another farm into your farm. And the first step in doing this is to ensure that poultry litter or manure after every batch is cleaned properly out of the banks or out of your poultry house. And after cleaning, make sure you manage this litter carefully. Don't throw it around your farm because it carries pathogens that have built up for over 40 days while your chickens were in the farm. So you want to manage this with care and you want to take it out of the farm. Now, after doing this, you are supposed to wash your poultry bands thoroughly. Everything within the equipment, your feeders, your drinkers should be thoroughly washed and disinfected. This will help you break the disease pressure or break the buildup of pathogens that can cause you potential problems. So at every given stage, you will not have a potential viable or good enough population of these pathogens in your farm to cause these problems in the first place. Now, the second thing is biosecurity. If you will allow visits on your farm, you must make sure that all those that visit your farms are properly dressed and also ensure that your farm is the only farm that they are visiting for the day. For me, this is so important, so much important that even vehicles that come into the farm, whether to deliver feed or anything, are disinfected before they get into the farm. Now, let's get into the second factor, which is the environment. The environment also plays a very important role in the management of these pathogens. So, you have to be careful with the environment in which you're raising your chickens. That is why I went as far as creating a video on temperature requirements for raising broilers. The broilers that you raise, they need an optimum temperature, humidity, and pressure within the house in which you're raising them in order for them to remain in good, healthy conditions. Now, if birds are stressed or they are suffering from poor environmental conditions, you will agree with me that any little disease or pressure on them will weigh down on their immune systems. So you want to ensure that birds are not stressed. In that way, their immune system remains strong, and if there is any sign of any disease causing pathogen within their systems, they will be able in the first place to fight it. So do everything possible to ensure that the birds are comfortable and that they are not stressed. In that way, they will have a better chance of fighting off any disease or pathogen. Still on the aspect of the environment, you have to ensure that your poultry barn or house is well ventilated. There should be the circulation of fresh air within the barn so as to prevent the accumulation of ammonia and high humidities, which could trigger chronic respiratory problems and issues like coccidiosis. On the aspect of feeding, it is very important to ensure that birds at every stage are receiving a balanced diet with all the vitamins and minerals that they require to remain healthy. By so doing, you will ensure that birds have a strong immune system. Also, it will be a waste of time if after all the sanitation and providing the right environment, you give chickens contaminated feed or water. So it is also important to handle the feed and water with care to avoid contamination. Also ensure that the drinkers and feeders that your chickens feed and drink on are clean. Now let's look at the use of probiotics and organic acids if possible, and how they can help to ensure that your chickens have good gut health. Probiotics are useful bacteria if they colonize the gut of your chickens. They help in the digestion of certain particles in the gut of the chickens, and they also suppress the growth of harmful bacteria or other pathogens when they multiply, occupying the space that these harmful bacteria could eventually multiply to occupy if they find space. So, when deciding on the feed for your chickens, if you are faced with the decision of deciding whether to go for a feed that has probiotics or a feed that has no probiotics, it is advisable to go for that with probiotics. On the other hand, organic acids are very useful in the guts of the chickens if given as a therapy. Adding the right quantity in their water to reduce the pH of the water to about 4 during feed changes and also during any diarrhea or stomach disorders goes a long way to balance good health in the gut of the chicken because it eases digestion and it also suppresses the multiplication of harmful bacteria and other pathogens within the gut of the chickens, since these disease causing pathogens do not multiply or grow very well in acidic conditions. However, this therapy must be limited to 3 days and should equally not be added to more than 1/3 of the water that the birds drink on a daily basis within these 3 days. Finally, if after all these measures your birds still happen to get sick from a chronic respiratory disease or coccidiosis or any other disease that is caused by a pathogen, it is now advisable that you can bring in a veterinary doctor to assess the situation, and he will most probably recommend a broad spectrum antibiotic, which could be something like amoxicillin or floxadox or absasol or any other, depending on the situation. There are a lot of them, so it's good to consult a veterinary doctor. And of course, remember not to give antibiotics to your chickens less than a week before harvest. If you apply all these measures, I assure you that your chickens will be healthy and you won't have to worry about coccidiosis or chronic respiratory diseases, and you will have very low mortality as well. Please remember to comment in the comment section below on other management measures that you are using to combat these diseases.